Good morning, folks. Wake up. We've got the beginning of a mainstream shift in climate discourse, a discovery that explains the space weather earthquake correlation, and a suicidal asteroid that can't seem to actually find his own demise. Let's get started with our star over at spaceweathernews.com, and we see modest calm, some surface activity, minor surges, shifts, and pops on the Earth-facing side, but nothing really eruptive or ejecting solar plasma. We did have a couple small C-class solar flares, but again, which were small, confined to the sunspot umbra themselves, and are dwindling back down now. Also worth noting the bright looping fields incoming from the left. But let's start with the sunspots that are already on the disk. The northern group is departing just as he finds some friends to the north of each of the main umbra. Each of the smaller umbra along for the ride are opposite polarity of their larger partner to the south, but alas, it's heading out of view. Southern sunspots are throwing a party, and the region is pretty much at max umbral capacity. We do see small but relevant mixing potential where the tails of the spreading umbra are interacting in the center. Solar wind here. The storm-producing stream has ended, and we've stepped down slightly in intensity and only slightly in magnetic disruption, which is worrisome with another stream on the way from the equatorial portion of the coronal hole. Tough to fully shape-locate the trailing portions, but by the end of the day tomorrow, we should see more intense solar wind from the front of it. This sort of tracking will be what you see on the TV news in a few years as the secret to how global warmists hid the power of the sun is being uncovered. By looking at greater variability over longer periods, it was made clear that modeling the entire planet's temperature based on only data since 1880 is one of the most inaccurate things humans have ever done. And when you create a larger scale picture, you find the sun is heading down in activity, and these mainstream climate scientists actually say it will overcome global warming and drop global temperatures. Still not exactly on point with where most of our community falls, but folks, this Swiss institute saying this would be like Michael Mann and Noah saying it in this country. Up next, Alphen waves, like the ones from coronal holes, are thought to be like many other waves, and which have an effect on the electrons and energy carried with it, but which was limited to the riding of that wave sort of up and down and still along the same general vector. But alas, it can be much less of a ripple and much more of a serious wave, with such amplitude that the wavelets themselves act like magnetic mirrors, which trap the particles in the waveguide and force them to ride at the speed of the wave. This can explain why the solar wind heats up so much, likely contributes to the unfathomable electron temperatures in the corona, and it might even explain the volatility associated with coronal holes in terms of the global electric circuit, which would mean it plays in earthquakes too. Last but not least, so these are Jupiter's asteroids, and almost all known asteroids orbit the Sun the same way as the planets do. But one is not only orbiting the wrong way around the Jovian rock population, but its helicity in motion is utterly perplexing and indicates both an impressive pathway and ability to not have smacked into Jupiter by now. Little daredevil keeps getting lucky. It is Saturday, so we'll have this week's podcast coming up shortly for website members at suspiciousobservers.org. It's April 1st, and instead of a prank, we're raising the contest prize over at quakewatch.net. Seems like a better idea anyway. It is just 1 week until observing the frontier, just 24 hours until we do this again right here. Got pressure and radar forecasts and shots of our star to close. It's 4:55 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.